Hey guys, Curious Hobbyist here. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be modifying the content files of Super Fancy Pants Adventure by Brad Borne again. If you haven't seen my previous SFPA videos, click on the top right or follow the link below. First, I mentioned in my last video on the game that I installed an update for the game around Christmas time last year. After updating, I noticed the game was slowed down to like half the normal speed. That is strange, because again, it wasn't slow before. The slowdown was caused by the update. One thing that could be causing it is the extra levels that came with the update, such as the World 1 remix. But that wouldn't make very much sense to me. In my last video on this game, I mentioned that I was curious about the old version of the game because of certain things I've discovered. Well, I just found the old version of the resources folder in the game on my desktop. I must have copied it there when I was making my first video in case of issues. So out with the new, in with the old, and start the game. And hey, that fixed the slowdown. Ah, normal gameplay at last. Also, I've completed the game. So, I'll give you a brief summary of the game. You start at your house on top of the basement spire. It's finally stopped raining and you head downwards to Squiggleville Plains. You cross pools of ink from an ink outbreak to get to the bathtub tower. While there, the manager of an ice cream shop blocks the way and asks you to tell King's assistant about his presence. Next, you find the local source of the outbreak, which is this ink boss. You defeat it, and then you can access the Tree Pirate Village area. There, you enter a cave, encounter a ship, and get on it. The captain of the ship tries to fly it, but these ink tentacles try to grab and pull it down. Attack them, and after the ship gets out of the cave, you'll be able to use it to select a world and travel anywhere with this selection map from the menu or by running into it. From there, you go through the volcano approach and volcano worlds. And finally, you'll reach the center of the volcano. Enter here to reach the final boss. It's a sort of shadow stickman shaped creature. After defeating it, it turns into a tentacle and throws you off the desk. Enter this hole in the ground and the screen turns white. To be continued. So it looks like Brad Borne has plans to update the game again. So, here are some things I think should be in the next update. 1. A multi-profile interface for far better multi-user gaming support. Or at least, a way to reset your story progress. 2. A game speed fix, especially if other users experience the same problem using different computers or operating systems. For the record, I'm using a Mac Mini made in late 2014, running macOS High Sierra, which is the latest version of macOS. 3. A window size update. First of all, the aspect ratio of this game in windowed mode by default is about 3:2, which is different than that of most displays and computer monitors today, 16:9. The aspect ratio of this window can be changed, but that feeds into a whole different problem. I'll try to illustrate this by using the default size of a Finder window as a template to change the size of this window to, which is also 16:9. As I mentioned in my last video on the game, changing the aspect ratio of the window distorts the icons and options in the pause menu, as well as certain elements in the heads-up display, such as the health and ink bars and the lives counter. Because of this, full screen mode is also slightly distorted. One example of this is that the icons in the pause menu aren't quite squares because it's 16:9, so I think that A, the aspect ratio of the window by default should be 16:9. B, it shouldn't be variable. That means when the size of the window is changed, the aspect ratio doesn't. That also means that it won't stretch to the size of displays that aren't 16:9. Instead, it fits to the display size. I also want to mention that even that alone would be a good update. 4. If you fall and respawn at a small platform with a door on it, which is common in bonus rooms like this, you respawn just above it. From there, you can hold left or right to swerve away from the platform, and this time around, you do not take damage from the fall. This goes on indefinitely. Also, if you lose a life in the bonus room, you respawn at the other side of the door to the bonus room. However, if you lose a life from outside of the bonus room, you respawn here. If you lose all of your lives in the middle of a world, in this case Squiggleville Plains, even if you're in a bonus room, you respawn at the beginning of Squiggleville Plains with 3 lives. However, if you fall off a small platform with a door on it with 0 lives and almost all of your health gone, you can strategically land at the door and press up to enter the bonus room. And once you're in it, you'll have the 3 lives. The same thing happens if you do the same thing from inside the bonus room. I'll get to more updates later, but now I'll show you some other stuff. After completing the game, you respawn in the house on top of the basement spire. So I tried exploring and found that the game's data is actually reset. So this is just like when I first got the game and started it. Except for one thing. If you go to the pause menu, you can still use the world selection map. This means it might be separate from the rest of my game progress. So you can still go and beat the final boss, or go to any world and experience the dialogue and sequence of events that occur there. But even if you got through such dialogue in a later world, you can still go back to play an earlier world and the game knows you haven't completed it. And the same things happen in the new version. This is a kind of nice feature, and would be a nicer feature if I was playing in my own profile. But since there's no multi-profile interface, I think the developer might not have meant for all the worlds to be accessible from this selection after you complete the game. So Brad Borne, if you are not going to add a multi-profile interface or a data reset, at least change this if it wasn't what you intended as a developer. So now, let's modify the game's content some more. One thing I'll try is transferring only specific components of the updated version of the game to the old version. So I'll start with this flash file called sfpa.swf. We can see that this new file is 48.5 megabytes. I'll copy it, and now let's look at the old version of the file. This one is 38.3, which is 10.2 megabytes less than the new one. I'll move it, and in its place, I'll paste the new one. Then, as you probably guessed, start the game. Aha! That's what's causing the slowdown. This tells us that the sfpa.swf file is the one that likely needs to be fixed. This is another thing that I think Brad Borne should consider for the next update. So next, let's try the final boss. When you get to the rightmost part of this platform, a cutscene starts and you get pushed off. Normally, you fall into this ink pit, telling the game to load the boss room. This is because there's something in the right portion of the ink pit that does that. But here, it didn't work normally. As a result, you do not respawn and the game is frozen. Next, let's try opening the gamepad sub to see what happens. The message below says, debug, and using the gamepad doesn't do anything, even though it's connected to my computer and would normally work. I'm using an MFI Nimbus SteelSeries gamepad. MFI actually stands for Made for iDevice, but I was still able to connect it to my computer in System Preferences. There were some issues though, such as the D-pad, right stick, and menu button not working properly in this game. Next, I did another modification to the game by replacing the old levels folder with a new one. When I played the game, I noticed the World 1 remix and the other arcade cabinet are there and function normally. I was able to launch the FA1 remix and play it without any problems. Another thing that I found a bit confusing is that if you're in one of the arcade stages and click quit from the pause menu, you go to the tower floor the arcade machines are on. But if you're somewhere else, it quits the game. Shouldn't it say 2 arcades or something like that? You might want to change that, Brad Borne. Then I tried using the other arcade machine to play the custom, extra, and race stages. They all seemed to work fine. But then I tried the Arena 1 fight level, which I replaced with Custom 1 in my last video. At first, it seemed to play normally, but then I collected a squiggle, and this happened. The squiggle sound effect starts ringing. I have no idea why this happens, but that's interesting. And then I tried attacking this enemy, and the game froze. So I tried launching again and tried going through this door. The game thinks I'm playing the fight level, but because this level is different, it has a door. As a result, the game gets confused and sends me back to the tower. Next, I tried collecting a squiggle and then going through the door. The music changes to what would normally play in the custom level. Then I click quit from the pause menu and it changed to the bathtub tower music. But all the while, the game is frozen on this frame. Part of that could be a result of what I just did, but it could also be that I replaced the original Arena 1 fight level before. Next, I tried putting the old sfpa.swf file back and started the game. As a result of that, the two arcade machines used to start the World 1 remix and other stages in the updated version of the game disappeared, which never happened before I did this. Unfortunately, this means I can't play the arcade levels or use the multiplayer functions at normal game speed. Please try to fix this, Brad Borne. Then I tried the final boss. When I fell off the platform, the boss level looked like it would load normally. However, the game froze on this black screen that you see here. Also, in my first SFPA video, I tried reinstalling the game and seeing if my game progress would reset. And it didn't work because I was exactly where I was before. But maybe when you uninstall an app through Steam, only the majority of the app is deleted by the uninstallation, while game progress stays in the app. So I'll move the app to a different place through Finder and reinstall the game through Steam. I also want to point out that there are no aliases inside the app. So if this doesn't work, then I don't know what will. Well, that doesn't seem to get rid of my game progress. It doesn't get rid of the world map either. Please fix this, Brad Borne. At least just add data reset. Also, because the final boss room looks a lot like a real room, I'm going to minimize and record the game's window like I've done before, and edit in the video to see what it looks like. One thing I noticed is that these lines in this notebook paper image flickered in this strange way. This is because they would normally be given hundreds of pixels of space to be rendered, whereas here, they're given less than 15 on this platform. Because of this, any thin line-like images or artifacts, such as the ink trail that you leave when you're inkboarding, tend to disappear intermittently. The lines on that shelf also flicker. Brad Borne should definitely add a pixelated mode to the next update. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If so, feel free to like it, share it with family and friends, and subscribe for more interesting content. If you want to be notified when I upload new videos, you can click the bell that appears next to subscribe after subscribing. Also, you can check out my channel by clicking here. I have more videos I think you would find interesting to check out. If you have questions or requests, you can let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching.